Welcome to Heart of the Guardians, where stories of courage, love, and destiny come alive. Today, we bring you a tale that crosses oceans, shatters expectations, and reveals that true beauty lies far beyond appearances. It's a story about a Chinese woman who journeyed across the world, not to find perfection, but to find love, and a rancher who saw her heart before her face. Let's begin. The year was 1886, and the wind over the plains of Montana carried whispers of change. Rancher Thomas Hale stood on his porch, looking out across miles of golden grass that shimmered under the setting sun. He had built this land with his own hands, planted fences, raised cattle, and watched the seasons come and go in silence. But in all that time, loneliness had become his quiet companion. Thomas was a kind man, tall and rugged, with eyes that spoke of loss. His wife, Clara, had died 3 winters ago, leaving behind an emptiness that no sunrise or harvest could fill. He told himself he'd never marry again. But the ranch was too big for one man, and the nights too long. His friend, a storekeeper named Jack, had teased him one afternoon. "Tom," Jack said, slapping the counter, "you need a wife. Not a hired hand, a woman who can cook, keep the house warm, maybe smile once in a while." Thomas had laughed it off. "Women like that don't come to places like this." Jack grinned. "Maybe not, but there are agencies now, mail-order brides, they call it. You write a letter, send it off, and a lady writes back. Some even come from overseas." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "Overseas? China, mostly," Jack said. "Hard-working women, they say. Some escaped poverty, some just want a new life." Thomas chuckled, shaking his head. "I don't need a wife, Jack. Especially not one from halfway across the world." But that night, as the wind rattled his window panes, the idea stuck with him. A partner, someone who might not replace Clara, but who could share the silence, the work, the warmth of a fire on a cold night. Days turned to weeks. One evening, after fixing the barn door, he sat at his desk, lit a lamp, and began to write. "Dear Madam," he started, the pen trembling slightly in his rough hands. "I am a rancher in Montana, seeking a companion. I don't have much to offer but honesty, a steady home, and respect. If you seek the same, write back." He sent the letter, not expecting a reply. Weeks later, a response arrived. The handwriting was delicate, the words simple but kind. "Dear Mr. Hale, my name is Lin Mei. I come from a small village in China. My life here is difficult, but I work hard and value kindness. I cannot promise beauty or wealth, but I can promise loyalty and care. If you wish, I will come." Thomas read the letter again and again. There was something about it, humility, sincerity, that warmed him more than he cared to admit. He wrote back, and so began a correspondence that lasted 6 months. Each letter brought a piece of her world into his, stories of rice fields and monsoon rains, of her little sister who dreamed of learning to read, of her hopes to start anew in America. Thomas found himself smiling when her letters came, reading them by the firelight, tracing her words with his thumb as though they held some kind of promise. Finally, one spring morning, he received a telegram. "Your bride arrives next week. The day she came, the town gathered at the small train station. The men leaned against posts, curious, while the women whispered behind gloved hands. The door of the carriage opened, and Lin Mei stepped out. She was small, her face partly hidden beneath a wide hat, her hands clasped tightly around a small bundle. She was not what the townsfolk expected. Her clothes were plain, her face tanned and lined from years of labor. Someone whispered, "She's not the pretty kind they usually send." Thomas heard it. He saw her hesitate at the top of the steps, uncertainty clouding her eyes. He walked forward, removing his hat. "Miss Lin Mei." She looked up, her eyes wide and dark. "Yes, you are Mr. Hale." He smiled. "Call me Thomas." Her English was careful, practiced. "Thomas, I am sorry. I am not the beautiful bride you ordered. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Thomas took her bundle from her hands gently and said with a warmth that reached his eyes, "You're all I needed." The days that followed were quiet. Lin Mei worked from dawn to dusk, cleaning, cooking, learning the rhythms of the ranch. She rose before the sun, tending to the chickens and gathering herbs she recognized in the wild fields. At first, Thomas didn't know how to speak to her. He admired her diligence, her grace, the quiet way she moved about the house. She rarely smiled, but when she did, it was like watching winter thaw into spring. The neighbors, however, were less kind. Mail-order bride from China. One woman scoffed in the general store. What will he do next? Hire a buffalo for company. Thomas ignored them, but Lin Mei heard. That night, she sat by the fire, her hands folded in her lap, silent tears glistening on her cheeks. Thomas noticed. "What's wrong?" "I hear what people say," she whispered. "They laugh at me. They say I don't belong." Thomas knelt beside her, gently lifting her chin. "Let them laugh. You belong here, with me. Don't you see, this ranch hasn't felt alive in years. And now, it does." She looked into his eyes, and something inside her softened. As summer deepened, so did their bond. They shared meals, laughter, and stories, broken English and simple words building bridges between two hearts. One evening, a storm rolled in from the west. Lightning split the sky, and the cattle panicked, breaking through the fence. Thomas grabbed his coat and ran into the night. Without hesitation, Lin Mei followed. Rain drenched her dress, mud splashed her face, but she didn't stop. Side by side, they herded the frightened animals back to safety. When it was done, Thomas looked at her, soaked and shivering, yet standing proud, defiant against the storm. "Why did you come out there?" he asked, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She smiled faintly. "Your cattle are your life. If they're lost, you'll hurt. I don't want you to hurt." He stared at her, the rain dripping from his hair. "Lin Mei," he said softly, "you've got more heart than anyone I've ever known." Months turned into a year. The townsfolk began to notice the change. Thomas, once quiet and withdrawn, now smiled more often. Lin Mei, once shy and reserved, began teaching the local children small bits of Chinese songs and calligraphy. When the local church held its harvest gathering, Thomas brought Lin Mei along. For the first time, she wore a bright red dress she had sewn herself. It wasn't fine silk, but it glowed like a flame under the lantern light. The same woman who once mocked her approached and said awkwardly, "Mrs. Hale, that's a beautiful dress." Lin Mei smiled gently. "Thank you. It is not beautiful cloth, but it is made with care." Thomas stood nearby, his chest swelling with pride. Later that night, as music filled the air, he held her close and whispered, "You remember the day you arrived? You said you weren't the beautiful bride I ordered." She nodded shyly. He smiled. "You were wrong. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever known." Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, "You see my heart, not my face." "That's the only beauty that lasts," he replied. Years passed. The ranch flourished. The laughter of children, 2 boys and a girl, echoed across the valley. Lin Mei taught them the songs of her homeland, while Thomas taught them to ride, to farm, and to live with honor. When the townsfolk spoke of Thomas Hale, they no longer said, "the man with the Chinese wife." They said, "the man with the kindest home in Montana." And every evening, as the sun dipped low and the fields glowed amber, Thomas would look at Lin Mei, still radiant in her quiet strength, and feel that same truth he spoke the day she arrived. She wasn't the bride he ordered. She was the love he needed. Sometimes, love doesn't come wrapped in the beauty the world expects. It comes in the form of kindness, of loyalty, of hands that heal and hearts that understand. Lin Mei and Thomas proved that love knows no language, no border, and no appearance. It only knows truth. Thank you for watching Heart of the Guardians, where every story reminds us that love is not found, it's built, one heartbeat at a time. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more timeless tales of faith, hope, and love.